Good afternoon, friends and enemies. It is week 15, Q and Assault, where my most pungent enemies assault me with any of their sit-start questions for week 15 of fantasy football. I don't even know if pungent is a word. It felt like the right thing to say there. There's a word in the vicinity of pungent. It might just be pungent. Pungent. Someone in the dictionary, one of those dictionary Twitter people. Tell me what's going on here. Tell me what I'm fucking yapping about, what I'm talking about. How's everybody doing? We got Steve in here. We got Greg in here. We got the White Yaksha. What does that mean? Does that have something to do with the anime profile pic you got? Every single Saturday, obviously, we go live at 2 p.m. Eastern time, answering any questions that you may have. We got Steven Franco. Let's throw him up on the chat skis. He said, full PBR, I need one flex. We got Pop Doug. We got Tucker Kraft. We have Christian Watson. Also, Breece Hall plays. Is he worth starting over Gus Edwards? I think everybody's worth starting over Gus Edwards, to be honest with you. I would play him over Gus. Gus is a disgusting start any way you look at it. So most options are probably going to be sexier for me than Gus. I know Breece is obviously banged up, but if he's out there, you got to think that he's good enough to play. Last time we saw him in a very diminished capacity, he still got 12 carries, went for, I believe, 60 yards. So he was running relatively efficiency, like 5 yards per carry. He'll obviously be used in a limited fashion, but at this point, so is Gus Edwards, and he offers no pass-catching upside, very little explosiveness as well. One thing I want to do on this live stream is utilize Vegas props a little bit more to help you guys break the tie there. And some of the players won't really have a projection, but the matchup is great. They actually have, this is crazy. So there's a website called, actually they just got bought out by, some of you guys probably follow him on Twitter, like the Beat Writers, 32 Beat Writers. They just bought out the Vegas tool that I had been using, and basically they put projections together powered by different Vegas sports books. And it's at tools.32, the number 32, beatwriters.com. Actually, you know what? I could just take you onto the goddamn screen. You guys can look at the thought process as I'm going through some of these things. And as always, if you're new here, or if you're watching this afterwards and you want an absolutely free square, a free bet, go to Underdog Fantasy, download it, and use code BDGE when you deposit $10 or more, okay? What that's going to do is populate this free square on the app for you. It's going to give you a deposit bonus as well. You'll get Jordan Love over half a passing yard. Those for one single yard, you're a winner on Underdog Fantasy. All right, let's get up on here. Let's get all up on here. I got to minimize my dumb ass. Put me there. Yep, you can see the URL on top, tools.32beatwriters.com. So when we're looking at these groupings of players, you see Breece projected very high right here. I'll control F it as we do these so you guys can see on the screen what I'm looking at. They have him at 16 PPR points. Obviously, that is extremely aggressive. Sometimes Vegas kind of hits the ceiling on where they think they're going to be. But the matchup is so good versus Jacksonville that he can almost like roll his way into a bad day. Gus Edwards down at 7.8, so literally less than half the projection for him. And let's look at some of the other players we have here. That was on running back. Let's go to flex, though. We got Pop Doug. See Pop Douglas in this? DeMario down at 9.2, so it's a good matchup versus Arizona. He's not running all the routes, so you don't really know what you're ever getting from the pass-catching group here. We have Tucker Kraft at 8.5 down here. Okay matchup. Seattle and Green Bay are both defenses I think have been better than offenses in recent weeks. So it could be more of a defensive matchup. And then you have Christian Watson a little bit above them at 9.6 with Romeo Doubs, who I believe is going to be out again. I think I actually might go Christian Watson here. I think he's got more yardage upside than these guys. I think he has probably the same amount of reception upside as most of them. If this was tight end premium, I would think a little bit more about Tucker Kraft here. He is probably sitting there with a little bit more touchdown upside than both Pop and Watson, but I like the upside a little bit more just overall for Christian Watson. So I'm going to go see Watt there. Greg said QB for super flex spot. We got Geno or definitely. I'm going Geno here. Russ without Pickens terrifies me. The White Yaki. Half PPR, tight end premiums. We got Josh Downs, Keenan, Tank Bigsby, Javonte, or Freiermuth. I'll tell you for sure, I'm not starting Javonte Williams. I want nothing to do with that Denver backfield. Pat is actually a solid option this week, especially in tight end premium. He has, I felt like, gotten the majority of the targets over recent weeks, especially with Pickens out there. So he's looking pretty good. We got Tank up here at 9.5 projection. Took over the leading rusher role last week, but you never really know what you're going to get from that backfield. I do think he's a pretty good play this week. Half PPR gives me a little bit queasy when it comes to Josh Downs. His first game back from a couple of weeks off here. 10.9 projection for full PPR, which obviously takes a little bit of a hit. Denver's a very tough pass D. The one thing I will say, though, he's not going to see really much of Patrick Surtain. And they're going to be without Riley Moss, who's their second best cornerback as well. He's been 3 straight DMPs for the week. So I think the overall matchup for Colts pass catchers is probably a little bit better than giving credit for, just looking at the matchup at face value. And we got Keenan just slightly above him here at 11.3 versus Minnesota. I hate the matchup for Chicago. There are another defenses where offense, that just gives you no consistency, and it's very difficult to they're almost like the Denver backfield, to be honest. They're like a little bit of an elevated version of playing against the Denver backfield. That being said, Keenan did have a great game against Minnesota last week, or Minnesota last time they played. I just get nervous in half PPR when it comes to Keenan. He's very hit or miss. His floor is pretty low in half PPR. Tank has, I feel like, a relatively good touchdown upside. So if this is my lineup overall, Javonte is going to be out. Oh man, this is tough. I think I'd go Downs, man. I think he's the best player available here, and I low-key like the matchup. It's a lot of yapping to just get to Downs. Also, half PPR pick 3. We got Garrett Wilson, we got Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, and Bucky. Do we have an update on Bucky? I don't think. What do we got here? Practice report. Bucky. Okay, Bucky got in a limited practice on Friday. Addison's gonna be in my lineup. We're gonna ride him into the flames here. Garrett Wilson, great matchup versus Jacksonville. I think I'm gonna ride him as well. If Bucky plays, I'm actually gonna roll with him as well. If he doesn't play, I'm gonna go Jaden Reed. Bucky's scary, obviously. He can always re-injure himself, but like he was also a dude for like a month of the season where he was like DNPs multiple days in a row and then would have, 15 to 20 touches, 15 to 20 fantasy points. Full PPR, we have Breece or Tank Bigsby. Full PPR, I'm actually going to lean Breece here if he plays. Yeah, anime nickname. All right, that makes sense. Why I'm so fucking lost. Eli, we got pick 3, full PPR, AJ Brown, JSN, Devontae Adams, and Charbonnet. Okay, well, assuming Kenneth Walker plays, Charbonnet's the odd man out here. If Kenneth Walker does not play, Charbonnet scoots up to the one piece for me. JSN, I think you got to ride him in full PPR. Pause. And, I mean, do you really want to go down with A.J. Brown outside of your lineup? I know it sucks. Like, he's been kind of woaded. But the big day is coming any minute now. I'm not really buying into like the squeaky wheel narrative right now, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel like one of those situations with AJ Brown as much as the media is covering it. Like they're winning every single game. This does not feel like a game script where they're going to want to pass the ball much. That being said, Brown's still going to be in my lineup. I'm curious how close these two are. Okay, so they actually have Adams and JSN both tied at 14.8. Yeah, I think as crazy as it might sound, I might split the difference here and not double down on Seattle's offense. I might sit JSN there and not go Sharp and JSN. I don't have a real hard read here on either one. I don't have one way that I'm leaning. one way or the other, because I think they're so fucking close here. And I think Adams has had good games with Rodgers. JSN's obviously been red hot, but I don't know that Seattle's an offense that I'm necessarily super hyped to just double down on. So that would be the tiebreaker for me, but I could understand if you wanted to, go the other way. I don't think it's a crazy sit start either way. I actually also wanted to bring up one more thing for you guys, the weather, because it's starting to get into mid-December. We are starting to get some weather concerns here. On the right side of the screen, you could see 6 or 7 games where weather could affect them. Anything in the green is not really that big of a deal. The Cincinnati at Tennessee game is getting some yellow warning action there. It says some off and on showers are possible, but I don't expect anything too significant rain-wise. Winds will be sustained at 10 to 15, gusting over 20. It's not perfect weather, but it's far from crippling. I will say these types of things are definitely tiebreakers for me. Like we watched, everyone in fantasy is like, oh, it only matters if it's like wind of 20 plus miles per hour, if it's like really snowy. We just watched Thursday Night Football where clearly the rain affected the shit out of the passing games there. Like Jawan Jennings dropped, I feel like 3 balls because it was wet out there. So I do think it should be used as a tiebreaker for pass catchers, especially guys that are high volume pass catchers, guys that catch balls like downfield often. Kansas City and Cleveland is the orange game on this list here. We'll see at least some rain with the potential, depending on the exact timing here, of rain all or most of the game, so that's not good. On top of that, we'll be dealing with 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained wind, gusts over 30 miles per hour. The rain-wind combo should impact offensive firepower here, especially in the passing game. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I went heavy on, if you follow me on Pickett, which is a sports betting tracking app, like it's a social app, you can go see all the picks that I make this weekend on Underdog or on DraftKings Sportsbook. I went pretty heavy on the lowers in this game. Like Xavier Worthy's longest reception was 19.5. That's, for me, I don't even know if he's going to catch more than 2 fucking balls. Half of them are screens that he usually gets. So that on top of the weather was one of the easiest lowers I've taken this season. I also took Jerry Jeudy lower than, I think, 70.5 receiving yards. I get it. He's been incredible. Matchup's good. If Cedric Tillman is out, then yeah, this one I'm really fighting against the fucking grain here with him and Njoku out. But the weather scares the shit out of me in that game for the passing game. Baltimore, New York, we're not really worried about. Dallas and Carolina, rain showers are possible, more likely late than early. That's not that big of an impact to me because the guys that you're really hyped to get out there are, Chuba and Rico Dowdle. So that rain is not going to affect the run game. If anything, it's going to emphasize the run game and ask them to run the ball a little bit more. Adam Thielen's also like a slot guy, so a lot of shorter passes. Lower A-dot passes are not overly concerning as well. The last weather game we have there in yellow, Indy at Denver. Wind should be pretty breezy early on, potentially 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained with gusts over 30. It does look like they drop off fairly quickly, and by the second half would be down to 10 mile per hour sustained with gusts closer to 20. So nothing wet out there. Got no rain, got no snow, just a little bit of wind. So not a huge factor there, in my humble opinion. Joseph, how we down? Need 1 running back. Make this a little smaller. Need 1 running back and 1 flex full PPR. We got JT at Denver. We got Pacheco at Cleveland or Jonnu at Houston. McBride is my tight end. Thanks. I'm actually going to sit Pacheco here, even in the rain, even in this weather. I think he's he's down here at 58th in terms of Vegas lines for PPR points, mainly because we just really haven't seen much out of him. We've seen a couple good runs. He's not super involved in the passing game. He hasn't gotten goal line work since he's come back. So, we haven't really seen any upside from Pacheco yet. And I'm worried that, sure, his role could be back, but there's also the aspect of it that he might just not be the same player he was pre-injury this year. You know how, Tony Pollard broke his shit 2 years ago, and then he wasn't the same for the beginning of the season last year? Very similar injury. And with Pacheco, there's just a chance we don't have the same explosive Pacheco that we had in the beginning of the year because he came back really quickly. So I'm a little bit worried about who he is. And you have really good options here, JT and Jonnu. Jonnu's been an absolute monster, obviously. And I think with their offensive tackles in Miami banged up, Tua's going to have to get the ball out. Teron Armstead's been 3 DMPs in a row. Kendall Lamb, their other tackle, has been 2, and then he got a limited practicing on Friday. He's questionable for the game. But if both their tackles are out against Will Anderson and the other pass rushers on Houston, Miami and Tua, their game plan is going to be get the ball out as quickly as fucking possible, which means a lot of Jonnu. So if it were me, I'd probably sit Pacheco. PPR, Jameson Williams or Pacheco flex. With that being said, I'm definitely going Jameson here. Like, I think you want as many pieces of that game environment as possible. It's probably still at 54.5. I'm assuming it's just kind of bouncing up and down around there. Where's that game script? Where the fuck are you? Yeah, 54.5 still. The over-under for this game. Highest over-under of the entire season. Is that game. So I want as many pieces that allow me to have upside and just allow me to get into that environment as possible. Okay, so I'm not really going to overthink that. In the dome, Josh Allen, like this is the game you waited for to have these Detroit Lions in your lineup here. I don't feel good enough about Pacheco, but I will check all these for you guys just so you have another piece of data. Jameson Williams is at 11.5 in full PPR, and I think I just checked before. Pacheco is at 12.2. They're very, very close, but I would still go JMO there. DJ Moore, Addison, Waddle, bench 1/2 PPR. I'm going to bench DJ Moore. Addison's red hot, can't bench him, and then Waddle's been really good too. Last 3 weeks, he's played like the guy that most people drafted him for. Tua is playing really, really well since coming back from the concussion. And I think these quick hitting passes will hopefully, mean some nice reception numbers for Jalen Waddle there. And again, I just want no part of that fucking Chicago passing offense. Marcy was good. Full PPR. We got running backs, JT, Pacheco, Bucky. I might have to make a decision about Pacheco before I know Bucky's status. Strategy. If Bucky gets announced active before 10, do you trust Bucky with the injury? Why do we have to? Are there later games? Are they? Let me check this real quick. So we have KC at 1. Oh, what do you have? Tampa at 4? 425. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is like the fantasy playoffs, so I wouldn't chance it for the off chance. Like, I wouldn't chance waiting for Bucky. I think there's a really good chance that we have a report before the 1 o'clock games about whether or not Bucky is playing. If that's not the case, if you feel like you haven't heard a report that's like 95% in favor of him playing, I would roll Pacheco there. I don't think the gap between them is like, obviously I like Bucky more than Pacheco right now, but I don't think the gap is significant enough to where you risk it to have a 0 in your fucking lineup there. Like there's obviously a world where just Pacheco goes out there, scores 11.5 points, and Bucky scores 13. And at that point, it's like it's not worth the risk on that edge of the spectrum, in my opinion, to roll with Bucky without actually knowing if he's going to play. But again, I do think we're going to know hopefully before the 1 o'clock games. It's funny because I listen to a lot of podcasts throughout the week that are like the fantasy doctors, right? Like the doctors out there on Twitter, so I can get a better idea of the injuries. And one of them that I listened to, Pro Football Doc, he was the former doctor for the Chargers for a long time. And he said that there has never, ever, ever been an actual game time decision. There's never, ever in the history of the NFL football, despite the way that they word it and they say it, a guy that has gone out pregame and they've decided whether or not they're playing in that moment. What he said is they know whether or not a guy is going to go, but they will do a check, right? Like they know Sunday morning they say Bucky's playing. Let's just have him go through warmups just to like make sure and finalize it. But going into the game day, it is never something that they just figure out on turf an hour before, right? Like they need to have the inactives and game plans ready for that type of shit. So that being said, usually those types of notes and that type of news leaks at some point if you're looking in the right places. So just like stay on top of Twitter, stay on top of reports. It's a good way to just think about game time decisions is they're not real. Like normally you have a much better idea of whether or not a player is going to be playing. Marcy Dubs, one more. We got full PPR, T or Terry. Jeez, that is a great problem to have, my friend. What do we got? T at 14.7. Terry's probably right there, 14.8. Yep, they're pretty much right there. But I'm worried about the game script for the Commanders. Yeah, I mean that's extremely valid because they are over touchdown favorites. You got Jake Hayner playing. They got no weapons on offense. This could be a dominant game script for Washington, which I'll actually relay into Eli's question. He said full PPR, B-Rob or Breece Hall. That's Brian Robinson for me easily. I think he'll get 20-plus touches. He's probably one of the most favorited players this week in terms of just like overall odds to score a touchdown. But yeah, this can go super, super game script in favor of Washington. This is really close to me. With Noah Brown out, I do think maybe the targets get a little bit more condensed. I don't really want to sit Terry, man. As much as I love T, I think the matchup's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more like scroungy. I could see this being a game that doesn't score a lot of points here. I don't really have a great lean either way. I think they're both options, and I don't think you're gonna regret playing either of them. I guess I'm gonna be honest. If it's my lineup, I might actually flip a fucking coin. I think I might lean Terry, but like T is such a good consolation prize. Last one, Pollard or Pacheco. If Pollard is out, Spears or Pacheco. Thanks, big dog. Yeah, the Tennessee, whatever Tennessee running back. Pollard, if he's playing. Spears, if Pollard doesn't play. But I expect Pollard to play. Last time Pollard went DMP, he ended up having 30 touches that offseason, or that next game. And you get 30 touches against the Cincinnati defense, you're going to do what Rico Dowdle did and go for $150. Heavy PPR flex, we got Aaron Jones or Zay Flowers. Ooh. In a vacuum, I think I like Zay Flowers more, but I think based on all the surrounding parts, I'm going to go Aaron Jones here. He had a good game against Chicago last time they played. Chicago's run defense is terrible. Really, really bad. And then Zay Flowers. The game script's going to be too good for Zay Flowers, I think. Lamar might throw the ball. Lamar might actually throw the ball about 15 times in this game. I'm actually curious where they stack up in PPR. So you've got Zay at 13.5. Aaron Jones at 14.7. So he has a little bit of a significant boost there. But yeah, I think Jones will probably catch 3 to 4 balls. He'll probably score a touchdown in this one. I love the matchup for him. So I'm going to go AJ there. Also have Tank Bigsby as an option for running back if Bucky doesn't play. Do you like Bigsby more than Pacheco? I don't like Bigsby more than Pacheco. No, but it does give you a little bit of leeway. Does Bigsby play? Jacksonville, I feel like, is always a 1 o'clock game, no? Or I guess maybe if they're... Or the Jags. Okay, they're 1 o'clock, so that doesn't actually change anything. But no, I would play Pacheco over Bigsby. Goff or Anthony Richardson, 4-point passing touchdown. Ooh, 2 great options. I would play Jared Goff. There's part of me that's like, oh, if you need ceiling, go A-Rich. If you need floor, go Goff. I kind of feel like Goff actually provides quite a ceiling in this game as well. You know Buffalo's going to score. You know Jared Goff and Detroit is going to have to score as well. With A-Rich in Denver, there's always a 120 passing yard game, 2 interception game on the horizon there. So I'm gonna go with Goff. He's gonna give you a floor that you do not have to worry about whatsoever. He's going to give you a 225 and 2 touchdown floor. It won't lose you your week. And I also think any given week he can, pop off for those 3-4 touchdown passes. And this, again, you want as many pieces in this fucking game as possible. Michael F., choose 2. Flex, we got Tracy, D-Hop, Devontae Smith, Hunter Henry, full PPR, tight end premium. Ooh, love it. Damn, normally I actually would have said D-Hop. I'll rank it this way. Like, I have D-Hop over Devontae Smith, but the weather is really concerning. Tracy's matchup is concerning. Hunter Henry, this is crazy. I actually might like Hunter Henry more than all of them in this matchup against Arizona. Let's get a read on the points. You got Tracy at 11.5. You've got Hopkins at 10.3. Devontae's going to be projected higher. 11.1. Or sorry, DeAndre was 10.3. Devontae is at 11.1. There are flaws with all of these guys. Hunter Henry at 10.7, non-tight end premium. Yeah, so it actually is leaning towards the way I was thinking about it. As weird as it is in full PPR, I think I'd roll with the running back and the tight end and leave the 2 wide receivers alone. As much as scary as that probably is to put them on the bench, you got D-Hop, who will probably see a decent amount of Denzel Ward, again, in a really, really bad weather environment in Cleveland. So don't love that whatsoever. Devonta Smith has really, I think he's like, his last bunch of games have been. I want to pull up some game logs for him. I know he's been kind of shitty, like actually really really shitty, and a lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts' volume, obviously, but I don't see that getting corrected. I don't see that getting corrected against Pittsburgh. Tough matchup, bad game environment, script, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Devontae 4 for 37, 4 for 29, 2 for 14 his last 3 games. That's abysmal. Yeah, so I'm actually going to go Tracy and Henry there. Tracy, like, he's not going to be efficient against this Baltimore defense, but he will. I mean, he's coming off a game where he had 10 targets. You know, he's going to see a lot of targets in this one. So in full PPR, I think he gives you maybe the best floor out of all those guys. How you down? Whew. It is so cold out here, but it's very hot in this room right now. I am scorched right now. What the hell are you doing? Any other questions before I dip skis out of here? All right. Well, we're closing in on the 30-minute mark. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Week 15, big fucking week. Big week. Let's close some deals. Let's close some games. And I'll see you back in the semifinals. All right. Monday recap. We're back to the recaps, of course, now that we're home. Monday recap, Tuesday waiver wire, Wednesday running back rankings, Thursday wide receiver rankings, Saturday Q and assault, all over again and again and again and again. All right. I'll see you when I see you. Smoochies.